Hi everyone, as many of you know, I'm an ex-Wukong jungle one-trick who hit Diamond 1 mid-season 7 playing only Wukong. I later hit Diamond 1 again playing meta that season, but I've always enjoyed playing Wukong, and today I'm going to share with you the most effective combos, clears, tips, builds, runes, and playstyles I've found throughout my around 1,000 games of Wukong. First combo is just going to be E auto Q, which is what you use before you have time at, so you just reset your auto attack with Q, most basic one. Next combo is going to be once you have time at is E auto time at auto Q. So you reset your first basic attack with time at and then your second one with Q, which deals the most damage for any combo, using just E and Q. So the next combo is one that a lot of people aren't familiar with who don't play Wukong, which is just canceling your Q with your E. So basically it's just going to look like I'm Eing here, but I'm just first Qing and then Eing. So that was a Q and an E right there. I'll show you again. That one was a little more obvious, but if I take off auto refresh, you can use them both at the same time. The next one is just a little trick with W. You can cancel your auto by doing W rather than clicking. So just click then W. Lets you to easily get behind them and other stuff like that. So the next one is really important because it is how you can tell someone's not a Wukong player because they don't do this. And basically it's canceling your Q animation with your ult so you don't see it at all. So when I jump on this guy, I'm going to EQ ult, but you're not going to see my Q. It's basically, show you again. You just EQ ult. So you can see the animation a little bit, but it's basically invisible, which lets you just one-shot people. Alright, so lastly, to tie it all together, if you wanted to do the most damage out of a combo reasonably, you do this combo right here. Which is just the E auto time at auto Q ult. Alright, so I double smite just to simulate a leash. And basically the whole point I'm putting this point in here, or this segment in here, is just to show you guys because a lot of people have trouble with Wukong clear. Just how to kite it. So as you can see on that red buff, I walk backwards after 1 to 2 autos so that I take minimal damage as possible and I get my E cooldown up faster. Because if I wasn't kiting it, I would get executed from this clear. So basically you can see after every 1 to 2 autos I'm backing up. And then it makes the monster walk towards me, which makes it have to restart its whole auto attack timer again. And then you'll see here on blue, if you see right there, I cancel the blue's auto attack with my W. When he's just about to hit me, I W, because then he goes through a full animation of using his attack while I'm not taking damage. And then I just take Scuttle to show you like how much health you'd be at after Scuttle and everything. Which might be slightly off because I simulated the leash possibly badly. And you don't really smite Scuttle. And then with Gromp, you just want to do really tiny movements because it's ranged. So if you do bigger movements on Gromp, then you're gonna take more damage. You just want it to move at the slightest bit possible. Wraiths always focus the small ones. As you can see, I'm backing up, so only a few of the Wraiths are hitting me because they're basically minion blocking each other. And then you can use your clone to finish off a 1 health target at the end, if you need to. And then with Krugs, I focus the big one first. XD, cancel auto, but don't do that. Don't cancel auto. Anything else in this you can copy, but don't cancel your autos. So if you're new to Wukong, just use this as a guide and try to copy all the movements and attacks that I do. So you can actually W through J4 ult as Wukong if you go right to where the 2 rocks meet in the middle of them. This is because Wukong's W is technically a blink that pushes you forward 100 units in the direction you're facing. To dodge a skill shot while moving forward, you want to quickly turn around, W, and then immediately turn back around and start going towards them again. So I'll show it again. Turn around, W, and then run back towards them. You can Q over small walls. To use your clone to tank a tower shot, you want to wait until the turret's about to auto the last minion to kill it, and then right when it's about to hit you W, you have to walk behind your W like I did, and then you can walk out of tower range after that. Alright, so on Wukong I run a large variety of different builds and paths and everything, so I'm just going to scroll through them real quick. If you don't want to watch the in-depth part, then you can just rip the builds from whatever one of these you want and then skip to the next part, but I'll be doing an in-depth analysis right after I scroll through them. So this is standard start, always start machete, and then these are some good items you can pick from. A standard build path if you're behind or versus tanks, versus AP, and versus AD, and then my favorite troll build. So anyway, to start the in-depth part. So a standard start is going to be warrior, of course. You're going to want to build Caulfield's first, and then boots if you're ahead, or blue smite if you're behind. And from there you can choose from Mobies, Tabbies, or Mercs. You're going to want to have Mobies if you're ahead, or if none of them are Giga fed, then you won't need Tabbies or Mercs. Otherwise, if they have heavy auto attack damage, you'll want Tabbies and Mercs for heavy CC. So then after that, you're going to want to get a Dirk. Actually always. You'll always want a Dirk after Warrior and Boots. And then from there, you're going to want a Tie Mat. If you're ahead. Tie Mat is an item I absolutely adore on Wukong because it allows for a second auto attack reset, which makes duels infinitely more interesting, better clear, and a very good early to mid game. But it has a downside where if you're behind, you're going to do absolutely no damage if you build it. Kind of. And so what you're going to want to do with this, as I show you in the later builds, you're always going to want to either upgrade Tie Mat, not normally, or just replace it as the last item in your builds, because the second auto attack reset isn't needed for late game, so it's normally better to replace it. So for some good items, you're going to want, Tie Mat I explained. Duskblade is really good because it synergizes with Wukong's W, because your W resets the timer, but be very careful because if you read here, you need to be unseen for 1 second. So you need to wait 1 second in your W before you go out of it. And then you can get 2 Duskblade autos in, which is a lot of damage. And then so the reason I put Warding Totem here is because I like to use Duskblade as my sweeper sometimes, because solo queue supports are absolutely atrocious at warding, I've found. So sometimes you'll just need to keep a Warding Totem, or even a blue trinket sometimes. That's good too. Or you can just go for sweeper if you're going traditional. And then Yomu's is really good because it synergizes with W and allows you to get onto targets pretty easily. And it synergizes with Mobies a lot. GA is very good on assassins because it allows you to kill your target and then have an extra chance to get out. Especially if you save W, you'll probably be okay. Cleaver is good for shredding tanks, and it's especially good to support your AD carry, because if you shred the tanks with your cleaver, then the AD can just melt them. Edge of Night is good for CC comps, and especially champions that rely on one skill shot, such as Lux or Morgana, like their bindings. Maw is good for AP champions, of course, and it's normally good to just sit on a Hex Drinker until last, unless you really need it. And then Last Whisper is, again, good for shredding tanks, similar to Black Cleaver, but that's almost always the last item, unless it's like Rammus Malphite. Alright, so my favorite standard build is going to be this build right here. It's really strong because it has basically the most damage output of all these builds, and it's really good if you're ahead, because you got the whole Tie Mat, double lethality, and then GA, so if you do die, then you can just respawn. So that's really nice. And then you're going to want to, again, sell out the Tie Mat, last item. And then if you're behind or versus tanks, you're not going to want to go Tie Mat, because you won't do any damage to tanks and you're going to cry. I guarantee you, you're going to cry if you build Tie Mat, if you're really behind. But versus tanks, you're going to want Duskblade still, because it's still really good damage, really good utility, busted item. And then you'll want Cleaver for shredding them. Next to GA, because that'll make you even tankier basically, because they can't focus you down and just kill you. So it's like not real tankiness, it's in health, but like they can't just kill you. And then you can get a Mortal Reminder, which is nice, or Lord Dominic's if you really need the shred. Then next versus AP champions, you're gonna want to go probably Merc Treads, most likely because it can be CC AP heavy. Still want Tiamat. You're gonna want to go the same Dirk build first, but you might need to throw a early Hex Drinker in there if an AP champ is getting really fed. But you're gonna want to finish that into Maw, along with Duskblade, and Edge of Night is good versus AP normally because most of them are relying on hitting one spell. Like for example, I mentioned Lux and Morg earlier, so that's a pretty good thing. And of course substitute Tiamat. And then versus AD, it's the same build as my favorite standard build. I just substitute in tabbies really. And then my favorite troll build is really fun to play as. I always do it when I'm playing with real life friends or something, or like silver friends, anything like that, because it's just so fun to you can ult, and then while you're ulting you can Zhonya's, and it's still going to be ulting around you, so you just do it to BM and finish them off by ulting while Zhonya'sing. It's really fun. Also critting is fun. Alright, so for runes, I personally like Electrocute because I like to play a gank heavy early game play style, but Predator and Dark Harvest are also viable. Predator feels very good for your W, but I just feel it lacks damage, so I don't take it, and Dark Harvest is if you want to play a farm heavy Wukong playstyle. As Wukong, your job is to make the enemy bot lane's life a living hell. You can prioritize ganks top and mid pre-6 to get yourself ahead, but unless the enemy top is squishy, bot lane is your home. Your ganks are weak pre-6 without red buff, so prioritize farming and counter ganking when you don't have red. Camp bushes in the enemy jungle and river to catch out the enemy squishies. Also, level 10 is Wukong's weakest point in the game, as his base ult damage jumps from 20 per second to 110 per second at level 11, plus 110% bonus AD. Also, his passive gets scaled up. So always farm to get 11 when you're level 10. Wukong's strongest point in the game is at level 11 with Duskblade, Warrior, and tier 2 boots, but he does scale well into late game fights if you can kill the enemy carries. If you have any more questions, you can ask me on my stream at twitch.tv/myesus or my Twitter at twitter.com/lolyesus. I'll put them in the description below, because I respond to them all and I'm happy to help you out. Oh, and also, remember that every monkey king needs a monkey queen, and it's cuffing season, bros, so get you one.